Sir James Rinnell, the valiant human knight Grimbold, his steadfast dwarf companion, made their way back to the Sleeping Hand Inn to report on the dark forces.
As they walk, they discuss their plans, weighing their options and considering the best approach to take once they arrive at the inn. They know that they will need allies and resources if they are to confront the dangers that threaten the enchanted forest, and they are determined to find whatever help they can. Finally, after what feels like an eternity of walking, they emerge from the forest and find themselves standing once again before the familiar sight of the Sleeping Hand's Inn. With a sense of purpose, they step inside, their eyes scanning the crowded common room in search of potential allies or sources of information. As they look around, they notice a group of adventurers sitting at a nearby table, their weapons and armor marking them as seasoned veterans of the road. They exchange a knowing glance and approach the group, introducing themselves and explaining their quest to protect the enchanted forest from the impending danger.
But when they tell story to the allies, people were not moved. Here's picture of the men in the inn.
As Sir James and Grimbold share their tale with the adventurers at the Sleeping Hand's Inn, they notice a lack of enthusiasm and interest from their audience. Despite their best efforts to convey the gravity of the situation and the importance of their quest to protect the enchanted forest, the adventurers seem unmoved by their words. Feeling a pang of disappointment, Sir James and Grimbold exchange a concerned glance. They had hoped to rally support and gather allies for their mission, but it seems that their story has fallen on deaf ears.
The halfling rogue spoke up. What is his name? He told them why he wanted to watch and wait. James and Grimbold exchanged looks. Seemed like to convince the crowd they would convince him.
The halfling rogue's name is Tully Bramblefoot. Tully Bramblefoot clears his throat, drawing the attention of the gathered adventurers. With a mischievous glint in his eye, he begins to speak, explaining his reasons for wanting to watch and wait before committing to Sir James and Grimbold's cause.
Here's a picture of him.
I've been around the block a few times, and I've learned that rushing headlong into danger isn't always the best course of action. Sometimes it pays to be cautious, to bide your time and gather information before making a move.
He gestures towards Sir James and Grimbold.
Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying your quest isn't noble or important, but before we go charging off into the forest, I think we need to know exactly what we're up against. We need a plan, a strategy for dealing with whatever threats we might encounter.
With a nod of agreement, Sir James steps forward, his voice steady and determined.
You're right, Tully. We can't afford to rush blindly into danger. But I assure you, we have a plan. We can face whatever threats come our way and emerge victorious.
Grimbold adds his voice to the conversation, speaking of the wisdom of the three sisters and the urgency of the threat that looms over the enchanted forest. Together, they paint a vivid picture of the dangers that await and the importance of their mission to protect the forest and all who dwell within it. As they speak, they can see the skepticism in Tully's eyes beginning to wane, replaced by a newfound sense of resolve. He nods in agreement, his expression determined.
All right, count me in. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that sometimes you have to take a leap of faith, even when the odds are stacked against you. Let's do this.
With Tully's support secured, Sir James and Grimbold turn back to the gathered adventurers, a sense of hope swelling in their hearts. They may not have convinced everyone, but with Tully by their side, they know that they have a fighting chance.
Grimbold and James speak about this threat, why they must prepare now.
As Sir James and Grimbold gather together with Tully Bramblefoot and the other adventurers at the Sleeping Hand's Inn, they take a moment to discuss the looming threat and the importance of preparing for the challenges that lie ahead.
We've seen the power of the forces that threaten the enchanted forest. They are ruthless and relentless, and they will stop at nothing to achieve their goals. If we are to stand any chance of stopping them, we must be prepared to face them head-on.
Sir James begins, his voice grave with concern. Grimbold nods in agreement, his expression determined. He adds,
We can't afford to underestimate our enemies. They're not just after the treasure. They seek to destroy everything we hold dear, to lay waste to the beauty and wonder of the forest. We must do everything in our power to stop them.
Tully listens intently, his eyes narrowing in thought. He asks, his voice tinged with anticipation.
So what's our next move?
Sir James and Grimbold exchange a meaningful glance, silently communicating their shared determination. James says,
First, we need to gather as much information as we can about our enemies and their plans. We need to know who we're up against and what resources they have at their disposal.
Grimbold continues.
Then, we'll need to gather allies and resources of our own. We can't hope to defeat our enemies alone. We'll need the support of the people of the Enchanted Forest, as well as any other allies we can muster.
Ursula nods in understanding, his expression serious. He asks.
And then what?
James says, his voice firm.
Then we fight. We confront our enemies head-on, and we do whatever it takes to protect the enchanted forest and all who dwell within it. We may face great challenges and dangers along the way, but if we stand together, I believe we can emerge victorious.
And so we've come to the end of episode 6. See you again.